So when it comes to raising capital, I always kind of attach it to human nature, right? So human nature is going to be inherently fearful, greedy, and lazy. But when you're having these conversations with people, the fear part, we almost want to pre-handle it. This is why we talked about like the first few sessions, it's already like jump into marketing. And you don't have to have deals just yet to get good at marketing. It's just what I like to teach a lot is document the process, right? Because with that, you can share what you're learning, and that reduces other people's fear. In that they're like, oh, okay, Gabe's still learning with you. It builds familiarity while also reducing the fear in that the more educated they get, the less fearful they'll be, right? So the more you kind of educate them on the process of, okay, where you're putting their money, if it's going to be used for renovations, I will even sometimes bring money partners to finish deals so they can see where their money went to.
Okay.
Right. So that's all just part of the marketing aspect.
Yeah.
It's just I call it education, where it's like you're
Education.
educating them, but you're also entertaining them. The greed part, I tend to just avoid those people. Like I don't necessarily want to put an effort to help them become less greedy because it's more valuable for my time to just find the people that I know that are in it for a longer term vision. And you'll see this with like almost all my students and all my money partners. Like the people that I work with that have stuck around for a long time, they won't penny pinch and they won't screw themselves over $1,000, $100 here, even like 10 grand, right? They understand that money is just a tool to help them get a larger vision. Right. Usually, that's a big common one is going to be they're doing it for family, they're doing it for a legacy, or they're doing it for like God. But it's more than just for them, right? Because I've worked with people in the past that will put the money first, and what tends to happen is that it just blows up after. Like the moment they start seeing, and it's like the term we use where you don't want to count the other person's money, because then now you're like, oh, like they're making this much, but they don't see how much effort is required. So if you just don't count other people's money and you're like, okay, we're in this as a team. Hey, we invest in your deals. Obviously, that's moving you forward, but it's also moving me forward in that, hey, I'm the money partner. I get my return. That helps me hit my goals. So the greed part, I just try to identify it. It's like, okay, if I get a feeling this person's like, okay, well, this person's just in it for the money, I won't necessarily push that hard to get them to become a money partner.
Well, that could create more of a liability because if they want money, then they have that tendency to want it now.
Correct.
If they don't get it, well,
Exactly. Yeah. And I've had that before where I've had money partners like say they're gonna keep the money in for a year and then like 6 months later they're pulling it out. Now, I will still pull it out at that time because I want to make sure I still keep the relationship. Like I'll value the relationship over, like 10 grand, whatever, right? We're in the real estate business. Like what's 10 grand if you're trying to get $1 million in real estate, 10 million real estate, whatever it is.
Have you ever had a situation where had exactly that? You gave them the money back, right? The way we do it is if you want to pull your money out, there's obviously a little fee you kind of have. Because this is a deal, everybody's trying to be in it to create success. To a point where you give the money back, they get their money, but then they see the progress that you've now got properties and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I'm actually interested in there." You've had those before?
I've had those, yeah. I'd say most of my money partners have stuck around. Yeah. And then even if they don't, usually I'll lose money partners if they end up doing their own deal. They end up becoming like a student or they buy their first house. And then in a few years, they tend to come back anyway. Yeah. Especially because like with the system we use, we do end up beating the banks, right? Like once they see like they get the monthly payments sent to them as a money partner, then they're like, oh, okay, like Scotiabank's not paying me this much. They're like, oh, okay, makes sense. Right. I do like the idea of adding a fee if they take out early. At least it incentivizes them to like stick to the contract. Right.
So it's
Because
like an
yeah,
outrageous fee, obviously, but
yeah,
it's something where, I put my time and effort into here,
mhm,
you then already confirm that you're gonna group, but then now you're pulling out, so it's like you're kind of breaching that, so there's obviously gonna be a fee involved.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
otherwise, your time and effort went nowhere,
Mhm,
you're not getting compensated.
absolutely. And then even the effort it takes to replace that money partner can delay you a few days. Maybe you need that for renovations. It's just a headache, right?
That's gonna be another question leading to is like when you go for leads, obviously the way you are now, it's probably a lot easier to get leads, but closer to the beginning or from the start. When you get leads, is you obviously you start with close friends, family, and then outside of that, was that like colleagues or people you worked with before?
Mhm.
And then outside of the colleagues, were complete strangers, you don't know them. Is that through marketing? Like you market yourself on Instagram or social media platforms?
Yeah. So,
Or you reach out to family and friends that may know other people, like you
right.
mentioned to us in the
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to get my free ebook, How to Never Be Broke Again? I've given this out completely for free. So DM me the word ebook, one word ebook, and I will send you that for free. You guys are awesome, and thanks so much for the continued support.
Your friend's friend that needs capital, basically. Yeah. I'll say in a sec, but so yeah, greed, I just ignore it. It's like, okay, I'd rather not work with those people. Last part is fear, greed, and then laziness. Laziness, again, it goes back to marketing or even educating them with these potential money partners because maybe they have access to a line of credit, but they don't necessarily want to use it, or like they got offered, but they don't know how to accept it. In that case, what I'll do is I'll break down like step by steps, like, hey, go to the bank, bring your past two notice of assessments, two pay stubs, and kind of make it dummy proof for them. So it's just a checklist. They still got to do it. Like, I'm not going to do it for them. Like, if you're that lazy that you can't just apply, then maybe the opportunity is not for you. But at minimum, I'm educating them of like, hey, here are the steps, right? Sometimes it's even educating them of like, hey, we'll jump on a Zoom call, figure out, okay, what exactly are your goals? How can we help if you're going to be a money partner? And then give them like instructions afterwards, like, hey, like you're going to need to get a bank draft or a certified draft. And then we'll have the money kind of transferred over so we can do deals like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of it is the education piece. And that's why I do focus a lot on the marketing of like educate, entertain, and then document the process. Because you don't have to be a guru, right? I think social media kind of messes that up where people think you have to know everything. It's like you just got to know a little bit ahead. And as sad as it sounds, I always remind people that like the bar is pretty low. Like your average person doesn't even calculate cash flow a month, like let alone a real estate deal. Their personal cash flow, they got no clue, right? Their financial statement, they don't know how to create your basic financial statement, net worth statement, and then income statement. Just by showing people that, then they can kind of see like, oh crap, like I do have, $1,000 a month that I can put towards this, or like, maybe they do have $500 a month, and maybe their income's in shambles, and then they just need to increase that income, right? But before we can even help them with that, we just have to almost, I call it preceding. It's like you're letting them know a little bit of what could happen moving forward. So you can kind of see that because we can't expect everyone to have the same vision. I'll look for that. Like you'll see me kind of advertise for people that, hey, you care about your family a little bit more. Do you care about a legacy a little bit more? Do you want something more out of life because you know you're capable? Like those are the people I want to work with. I am not in the business of convincing you to do real estate because I know it works, right? And I know it works even if you don't go full time. Like people get this misconception, you gotta like quit your job, burn the boats. Not necessarily, right? And then I'll have few like guests, they'll show up and like, hey, I've been thinking about business and real estate for the past 5 years. And my question is like, hey, why haven't you taken any action? And it's always like, oh, I think I have enough knowledge. Well, I'm just like, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think it's knowledge. I don't call it knowledge if you haven't taken action.
Comes down to your laziness or fear of losing money.
Correct. Yeah. So it does go back to human nature. Again, we don't like judge these people, or I'm just saying like there's a certain client that I like working with. It makes it easier for myself. It makes it easier for them. And then same with those money partners. And that's why I have it aligned, right? It's like my money partners and my students tend to be very similar in that they want something more. And the big difference I find is that students are a little bit more open to doing it on their own, like learning with our coaching and mentorship. And then the money partners, they're either scared to do it on their own, or they could be the opposite too. Like they've already done real estate. They're like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm a different aspect or a different part of my life. I just want pure passive income.
And thank you again, Patrick, for this program. It changed my life. It changed my mindset. It changed everything. That was the best six weeks of my life.
I just want to give a shout out to my man Patrick. Just honestly been one of the best teachers that I've ever had.
It's a very informative course. Patrick works with you one-on-one, so if there's any questions or anything you might be doubting or you're uncertain of, he'll definitely be there to help. Honestly, I highly suggest this course. It's taught me a lot through my journey.